welcome back to an episode of Finn's Chats. Today, I'm going to be going over every single off-season occurrence that happened that actually was significant for the MLB. I'm going to go team by team, division by division, give my little Finsy rating on how well each team did in the off-season. And there actually are some names out there still. There's Edwin Encarnacion, there's Yasiel Puig, there's Shane Green, the Savage reliever. I mean, there's still moves to be made, but at this point, on March 22nd, there's not really a lot of things to do that's left, so let me just grade every team thus far. Let's get into it. Okay, we're going to start with the AL East. So, the Tampa Bay Rays, they acquired Corey Kluber. Okay, that's a pretty good start to add to the rotation, but they also lost Michael Wacha, Colin McHugh, a good reliever, Nelson Cruz, a savage bat, and Joey Wendell, a type of bat that can do it all. So, I'm going to give the Rays a D-. They didn't really acquire anybody that good. Corey Kluber is very injury prone. I feel like he's past his prime at this point, and they lost a lot of their team that helped them get deep into the postseason. Next, we have the Blue Jays. So, the Blue Jays acquired Kevin Gausman, Yusei Kikuchi, Yimi Garcia, and Matt Chapman, while also losing Robbie Ray, Marcus Semien, and Steven Matz. So on the surface, it looks like the Blue Jays added to their rotation. I think Robbie Ray is a flash in the pan. I feel like he's a Rick Porcello type Cy Young, where he has a really good season, secures the bag, and then is just utter trash for the rest of his career. Yimi Garcia is a great add to the bullpen. Matt Chapman is a good bat for big power. Like the Blue Jays are trying to craft a lineup around big power because they got Vladdy, Teoscar, Grichuk, etc. I mean, yes, they did lose Marcus Semien, but he could also be a flash in the pan. Yes, granted, he's had 3 good seasons in a row, but who's to say he keeps that up? So I'm going to give the Blue Jays a rating of B. Next up, we have the Red Sox. The Red Sox acquired Rich Hill, James Paxton, Michael Wacha, and Trevor Story. The Red Sox lost Eduardo Rodriguez, Hunter Renfroe, Adam Ottavino, and Kyle Schwarber. So Trevor Story is going to basically be the reason why the Red Sox have a rating of B+ here. Without him, I would give the Red Sox basically a D, because they lost Adam Ottavino. He's a good bullpen reliever. They lost Eduardo Rodriguez. He's like a middle of the pack. Hunter Renfroe, he has big power. And Kyle Schwarber, big power, but they replaced him with Trevor Story. That's not the worst replacement. James Paxton is coming off an injury-riddled season with the Mariners, so who's to say he comes back and bounces back like a savage. Next up, we have the Yankees. So the Yankees acquired Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, otherwise known as IKF, and they acquired Josh Donaldson while losing Corey Kluber, Gary Sanchez, Gio Urshela, Clint Frazier, Greg Allen, Luke Voigt, and Andrew Heaney. So the fact that the Yankees didn't acquire any big names in the market, they could have gotten Carlos Correa, they could have got Freddie Freeman, they could have got Matt Olson, they could have got Trevor Story, and they were actually beat out by the Red Sox, which is kind of funny. So I'm going to give the Yankees a rating of B- simply because of all the free agents that they missed out on. Last but not least, in the AL East, we have the Orioles, and they didn't really acquire anyone significant, but they lost Michael Givens. This is not enough to give them a rating of any kind. They didn't really do anything in the offseason. Okay, moving on to the AL Central, we have the White Sox. So the White Sox acquired Kendall Graveman. He's a savage reliever, and they lost Carlos Rodon. So I'm going to give the White Sox a rating of a D. So they lost one of the savage starters in their rotation, but they do still have Lance Lynn, and they still have Giolito, so that's not the worst thing in the world. And they also added to their bullpen with Kendall Graveman, who's a very slept-on reliever. Moving on to the Tigers. So the Tigers actually had a savage offseason. They got Javier Baez, Eduardo Rodriguez, Tucker Barnhart, and Michael Pineda, while only losing Matthew Boyd. So Matthew Boyd is basically Eduardo Rodriguez, so that's kind of just a 50-50 split. And they acquired Javier Baez, savage shortstop, we all know this, and Tucker Barnhart, a very slept-on catcher, and Michael Pineda, who can, give some veteran leadership to the Tigers rotation. So I'm going to give the Tigers a B+ here. Moving on to the Twins. So the Twins acquired Sonny Gray, Gary Sanchez, Gio Urshela, and Carlos Correa, while also losing Josh Donaldson, Michael Pineda, Mitch Garver, Alex Colome, and Andrelton Simmons. I'm going to give the Twins an A- here. So without Carlos Correa, they would probably get like a C+, maybe a B-. But since they spent the bag on Carlos Correa, I think their lineup is actually a little better. They're still going to be mid-tier team, but Carlos Correa is going to add a savage bat. Gio Urshela is, a good power hitter. He has some average. Last year, he had kind of a down season, but he can possibly bounce back with a new uniform on. And Gary Sanchez, we know, is a hit or miss. He's either going to strike out or hit a home run. So, not really much to say about that one. And Sonny Gray, he's a hit or miss pitcher type too. Moving on to the Royals. So the Royals got Amir Garrett and Zach Greinke, and they lost Mike Minor and Danny Duffy. So I'm going to give the Royals a D+ here. Amir Garrett, he has like a 9,000 ERA. Yeah, I'm good on that. And Zach Greinke, he's getting old, and he only signed a 1-year contract, which is scary. Maybe he's going to show up and be a savage for 1 year, or he's going to be trash. So, I mean, you don't really know. And they lost Danny Duffy, a very slept-on starter. And they lost Mike Minor, but Mike Minor and Zach Greinke are pretty similar. Zach Greinke's a little better. So that's kind of a 50-50 split. That's why I'm going to give the Royals a D+. And last but not least, we have the Cleveland Guardians, who did not acquire anyone significant, nor did they lose anyone significant. So they're not really deserving of a rating here. Moving on to the AL West, we're going to start with the Astros. The Astros acquired Hector Neris while losing Kendall Graveman, Carlos Correa, and Zach Greinke. I'm going to give the Astros a D, only because they re-signed Justin Verlander as well. So times will tell if that's a good move or not. But they, lost a lot of bullpen. They lost Kendall Graveman and Zach Greinke, and Hector Neris is not the best Kendall Graveman replacement. And they lost Carlos Correa, who's pretty irreplaceable at the shortstop position. Next up, we got the Angels. So the Angels acquired Aaron Loup, Archie Bradley, and Noah Syndergaard, while losing Cole Calhoun, Steve Cishek, and Alex Cobb. So Steve Cishek and Aaron Loup are kind of like a 50-50 split. They're both good bullpen arms, but I think Aaron Loup's a little better, so give the A+ to Angels there. Then we got Archie Bradley, another bullpen acquisition. So the Angels are just stacking the bullpen. They also re-signed Rafael Iglesias, so the Angels might have one of the best bullpens in the league. And they acquired Noah Syndergaard, who is a top-tier starter. A lot of people forget that. He's a top-tier starter. He's just been injury-prone. So with all that being said, I'm going to give the Angels a B here. Next up, we got the Mariners. Mariners acquired Robbie Ray, Adam Frazier, Jesse Winker, and Eugenio Suarez, while losing Yusei Kikuchi, James Paxton. I'm going to give the Mariners an A here. They got a lot of slept-on bats. So Adam Frazier, he's a really good average hitter. Jesse Winker, a really good average hitter. And he had like a near MVP season last year with the Reds. And Eugenio Suarez is a good power bat to add to the already existing Mariners lineup. And we already know Robbie Ray won the Cy Young last year, so you can never go wrong with adding a Cy Young arm to your already nice-ish starting rotation. So I'm going to give the Mariners an A here. Next up, we got the Rangers. So geez Louise, the Rangers got Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, John Gray, Cole Calhoun, and Mitch Garver, while only losing Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. I'm going to give the Rangers an A. I was tempted for an A+, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, Corey Seager is really good. Marcus Semien is really good, but will they keep it up this season with the Rangers? Only time will tell. John Gray is a savage arm. He's very slept on. He's been in Colorado, a very hitter-friendly park. So maybe in a not-so-hitter-friendly park in Texas, he can be better. We got Cole Calhoun. He's a good average hitter. And Mitch Garver, a very slept-on catcher. So, I'm going to give them an A, like I said before, but, I was tempted for A+. And last but not least in this division, we got the Athletics. They didn't acquire anyone significant, but they lost Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Starling Marte, Mark Canha, and Chris Bassett. So you can expect the Athletics to tank this season. Next up, we have the NL East, probably the division that had the most moves in the offseason, starting with the Braves. The Braves got Kirby Yates, Matt Olson, Kenley Jansen, and Colin McHugh. The Braves lost Jorge Soler, Mark Melancon, Jock Peterson, and Freddie Freeman. I'm going to give the Braves a B+ here. So they added Kirby Yates, a savage arm to their bullpen. They did lose Shane Green. I forgot to add that. But Kirby Yates is a great replacement. They got Matt Olson, a good Freddie Freeman replacement. They got Kenley Jansen, a good Mark Melancon replacement. And they got Colin McHugh, another bullpen arm. And they lost Jorge Soler. But I think Jorge Soler had kind of an outlier season last year. He hits a lot of home runs, but he doesn't really hit for average. I think the Braves are going to be really good now that Acuna's back. They re-signed Eddie Rosario. Braves get a B+ here. And yes, this is where my Mets bias comes in, because next talk about the Mets. The Mets got Max Scherzer, Starling Marte, Mark Canha, Adam Ottavino, Eduardo Escobar, and Chris Bassett. They did lose, however, Rich Hill, Yuris Familia, Aaron Loup, Javier Baez, Noah Syndergaard, Marcus Stroman, and Jonathan Villar. I'm going to give the Mets an A here because they actually went out and made moves for the first time, I think, in Mets history. They got Mad Max, one of the best starters in the league, if not behind Jacob deGrom, who's also in the rotation. They got Starling Marte, one of the most slept-on outfielders in baseball. He's probably top 5 in my opinion. Mark Canha, a really good average hitter. Adam Ottavino, great arm to add to the bullpen to replace Aaron Loup. Eduardo Escobar, not the biggest fan of this move because he doesn't really hit well for average, but he does have some power for a middle infielder. So, okay, give me Eduardo Escobar. And then Chris Bassett, why not add another savage slept-on arm to the rotation? Why not? Next up, we got the Phillies. The Phillies got Corey Knebel, Yuris Familia, Kyle Schwarber, and Nick Castellanos, while losing Andrew McCutchen, Hector Neris, and Ian Kennedy. Ian Kennedy and Corey Knebel, they're probably like a 50-50 split. Corey Knebel might be a little better. Then they lost Hector Neris, but they got Yuris Familia, so that's another 50-50 split. And they lost Andrew McCutchen, but they acquired Schwarber and Castellanos to replace him. I'm going to give the Phillies an A here. They added to their already stacked outfield. Now they have Harper, Schwarber, and Castellanos. That is pretty scary. And Corey Knebel will probably be their new closer. average in his own right. So give me the Phillies getting an A here. Next up, we go to the Nationals. The Nationals got Nelson Cruz and Steve Cishek. They didn't really lose anybody significant, so the Nationals are going to get a C- here. Not really much to say about this. Moving on to the Marlins. The Marlins got Joey Wendell, Jorge Soler, and Avisail Garcia, while losing Yimi Garcia, Zach Thompson, and Jorge Alfaro. I know the Marlins did re-sign Sandy Alcantara, but they lost a couple of savage bullpen arms in Zach Thompson and Yimi Garcia. But they did get Joey Wendell and Avisail Garcia, two outfielders that can hit for average, and I think that's what the Marlins need because they're trying to build their lineup as an average lineup, and they have their one stud power hitter Jorge Soler to build around. So let me get the Marlins getting a C here. Next up, we go to the NL Central, starting with the Cubs. Got Marcus Stroman, Andrelton Simmons, Seiya Suzuki, Wade Miley, Clint Frazier, Jonathan Villar, and Michael Givens without losing anybody significant. The Cubs are going to get an A here. They added to their rotation. They got Marcus Stroman. He's pretty savage. They got Wade Miley. He's really savage. And they got Michael Givens, who's going to be a sneaky bullpen arm for them. They also signed Seiya Suzuki, who a lot of you guys might not know. A lot of people say he might be like the next Shohei with his skill. Then they got Clint Frazier, who we all know is a great outfielder. He's going to finally get playing time. Jonathan Villar, he's going to, try to steal some bases for you and be a good middle infielder to try to replace Javi Baez. So give me the Cubs getting an A here. Next up, we got the Brewers. The Brewers got Hunter Renfroe and Andrew McCutchen while losing Avisail Garcia. So Andrew McCutchen and Avisail Garcia are kind of like a 50-50 split, and they added Hunter Renfroe, who's a good power bat, but he hits like sub 200, so I'm not really a big fan of him. Got the Brewers getting a C- here. They didn't really do much. They did add McCutchen and Renfroe, but what is that really going to do to your lineup? Next up, we got the Cardinals. So the Cardinals, the only move they made was acquiring Steven Matz. Steven Matz did have a good season last year with the Blue Jays, but every year with the Mets, he was utter trash. So maybe last year was an outlier. I'm not really sure. Only time will tell. The Cardinals didn't lose anybody significant. I'm going to get the Cardinals getting a D- here, simply for the fact that they didn't really make any moves. They got Steven Matz, but he's like another Miles Mikolas. Do you want another Miles Mikolas on your roster? I wouldn't. Next up, we got the Reds. So the Reds got Mike Minor, Donovan Solano, and Colin Moran, while losing Tucker Barnhart, Sonny Gray, Amir Garrett, Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez, Nick Castellanos, and Wade Miley. The Reds are going to get a D here. So Donovan Solano and Colin Moran are great average hitters, don't get me wrong, but they don't really have a lot of power. And Mike Minor, I guess he's a Sonny Gray replacement, but I feel like the Reds just lost too much in the offseason for me to give them a higher rating than D. Next up, we got the Pirates. So the Pirates actually acquired Greg Allen, Jose Quintana, and Zach Thompson while losing only Colin Moran. So Greg Allen's going to be a good speedy bat for them and getting a lot of stolen bases. Jose Quintana, he's hit or miss in the starting rotation. And Zach Thompson, he's a really good prospect that the Marlins had. So I think this is a sneaky ad for them. He might be another Garrett Cole. Only time will tell. Give me the Pirates getting a C- here. And last but not least, we got the NL West, starting with the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks acquired Mark Melancon and Ian Kennedy, and they lost Archie Bradley and Eduardo Escobar. Mark Melancon can probably replace Archie Bradley, and Ian Kennedy, he's a very slept-on reliever as well. And they also trimmed some fat by getting rid of Eduardo Escobar. As a Mets fan, I don't want to downplay Eduardo Escobar's skill because I just praised him 5 minutes earlier, but I got the Diamondbacks getting a C- here. I don't think they could afford to lose Eduardo Escobar in their already stagnant lineup, but they did add a couple bullpen arms, so C-. Next up, we got the Giants. So the Giants acquired Alex Cobb, Carlos Rodon, Matthew Boyd, and Jock Peterson while losing Kevin Gausman, Jose Quintana, Chris Bryant, and Donovan Solano. I got the Giants getting a C+ here. Carlos Rodon is a great Kevin Gausman replacement. Matthew Boyd, great Jose Quintana replacement. He actually is a little better than Jose Quintana, but the only problem is they lost Chris Bryant, who was a savage in his own right. There's no really replacing Chris Bryant. Yes, they might have gotten Jock Peterson, and they added another arm to their rotation with Alex Cobb as well. They did lose Donovan Solano, but he was already on the downswing once he left. So I got the Giants getting a C+ here. Next up, we got the Padres. So the Padres acquired Jorge Alfaro and Luke Voigt while losing Adam Frazier and Kirby Yates. I got the Padres getting a C here simply because that Luke Voigt trade they needed that. They needed that badly. They needed another power bat. They're not going to have Tatis for the first 3 months of the season, so maybe Luke Voigt can elevate them to the level where Tatis can come back and they still are in playoff contention. Jorge Alfaro, a very slept-on catcher, and they lost Adam Frazier. That's a big loss because he's a really good hitter, top 50 in average, and Kirby Yates, a great closer. They lost him as well, and they didn't really replace him, so Padres are getting a C here. Next up, we got the Dodgers. So the Dodgers acquired Andrew Heaney, Freddie Freeman, and Danny Duffy while losing Corey Seager, Kenley Jansen, Max Scherzer, and Corey Knebel. I get the Dodgers getting a C here only because Freddie Freeman was a great acquisition. They're not going to replace Corey Seager. They're not going to replace Corey Knebel. They're not going to replace Max Scherzer, and they're not going to replace Kenley Jansen. They're all too savage to be replaced. Andrew Heaney, I hate that move. He stinks. And Danny Duffy, a very slept-on starter. And the thing about losing Kenley Jansen is the Dodgers do already have a pretty stacked bullpen. They got Blake Trinan, who was a good closer on the Athletics, and they got Gratterall, who everybody has been begging to finally be the closer. So I got the Dodgers getting the C here. And last but not least, we have the Rockies. You know what? This actually might be the least. They got Alice Colome and Chris Bryant while losing Trevor Story and John Gray. So the rating here is a WTF are you doing? I have no idea what the Rockies' plan is. So a couple years ago, they gave away Nolan Arenado for piles. Now they acquire another third baseman who's debatably not as good as Nolan Arenado for even more piles. And they lost Trevor Story. So, like, is this team rebuilding or are they hunting for something? They're in a stacked division regardless. So I don't even know why you would spend so much money on Chris Bryant. I guess if you have money, you're going to spend it. But this honestly just makes no sense on the surface. I have no idea what they're trying to accomplish. So I got the Rockies getting a WTF are you doing? Thank you for tuning into an episode of Finch Chats. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my breakdown of every pickup and move that happened in the MLB offseason so far. There's not really a lot of moves to be made, so I figured now would be the perfect time to make this video. Hopefully we enjoy our fantasy baseball seasons. Hopefully we enjoy our front row tickets to the games. And I hope you have a great day, you savage!